Every brand tells a story. And they are the storytellers. The Sutradhars. They present a brand with band, baja and barat to you. They are the Brandwalas. He is the co-founder of India's largest online grocery platform, Vipul Parekh, co-founder and chief marketing officer of BigBasket. With a strong background in strategy, finance, and consumer business, he has been instrumental in shaping BigBasket's growth journey and building it into a household name across India. A former partner at People Capital and director at Wipro, Vipul brings deep expertise in scaling businesses and understanding evolving consumer needs. At BigBasket, he has led brand building, customer engagement, and fundraising initiatives that have made the company a pioneer in India's e-grocery revolution. He is our Brandwala. You are watching the Brandwalas. I am Krishnakumar and we are in conversation with Mr. Vipul Parekh, co-founder of BigBasket. Vipul, thank you so much for taking time to do this here on the Brandwalas. I'm going to begin by asking you a very simple question, which is what we always do on the show, which is how do you market what you market? And here you are doing quick commerce. And you are a first mover in the business of quick commerce, or for the matter, grocery deliveries, online grocery deliveries per se. And you've seen this business evolve, constantly to the point where right now the biggest e-commerce business is the quick commerce business, and the fastest growing and set to be even bigger going forward. So how do you market your platform today? Because marketing the platform 10 years ago is a much different story to what is happening today, isn't it?
It's very different. I think today is a very, very interesting situation today. One, the entire space is very competitive. Two, there are millions of customers coming on to quick grocery. And therefore, the choice is really, how do you market to and who do you market to, like you asked. And the biggest challenge for a marketer today is that every competitor, everybody has a lot of money. So now you also have the problem that you need to be efficient when you need to market. So how do you get efficient? How do you define who you market? So where we started from, we said we'll define a brand first and figure out who is a target customer. So if you look at BigBasket, we are not a Gen Z brand. Unfortunately, we are boomers who built this business. So
it's made by boomers for boomers.
It is not made by boomers for, and I like to think of myself as Gen Z at heart.
Okay.
But the fact is that our brand appeals to, let me say, more evolved, mature customers.
So millennials onwards.
Millennials onwards. And when we think of the grocery market, it also makes logical economic sense. If you take a typical Gen Z customer, he's not going to buy loads of monthly groceries. He's buying snacks, Coke, stuff to eat, stuff to spend, simple things. And that doesn't build up to a very large basket. But if you look at a family with children, they are buying a lot because you have to cater to the kids, you have to send them to school, to feed them breakfast, lunch, dinner. You want to cook at home because it's healthier. You're focused on cooking at home, so there's a lot more groceries that you buy. So our therefore, the way we segment our customers is, we say our sweet spot is people who are 35 years plus and who have children ideally, but even without children, people with 35 plus years of age and about 10 lakhs plus of annual income. And that is a sweet spot. But having said that, so most of a business really comes from here.
That's really specific.
It's very specific. And today it accounts for about 50% of the market. And then obviously we cater to the 25 to 35 also because they're getting started in groceries. But this is really a sweet spot. So if you think of the BigBasket customer starts at 25 and goes on until they are retired. or even beyond. So we have a lot of old people who actually buy from BigBasket because it's very convenient. They trust the brand, trust the quality. So that's our customer profile. And once you define the customer profile, it becomes a lot easier because then you map what your customer does. And interestingly, even those customers have started to change. You keep thinking of Reels as being only Gen Z. Not true anymore. You will be surprised at the amount of time older people today spend on Reels and WhatsApp. A lot of them will rival Gen Z. And this is an insight that I had much later, unfortunately for us. And their media profile is slightly different. They follow influencers more. They are interested in certain topics and they follow certain trends. So health, yoga. For example, you may not realize it, but the kind of following that yoga has online and the number of people who participate in sessions is absolutely astounding. I was reading of a recent yoga online coach and his last session, there were 1 million people who participated in a single session.
Wow.
And these are not Gen Z, obviously they are not doing yoga. So Gen Z towards yoga. Today, the way I think of a brand construct is that we need to spend on Instagram because I need to be in Reels even for older customers. I need to spend on search because these people search on Google, on YouTube. I need to spend on YouTube because they will watch videos.
The split in terms of a ratio. How much of what marketing that you do is brand marketing and how much is it performance marketing?
I think the split changes a little bit, but ideally you need both. 50-50 in equal measure, honestly.
Okay.
And if you look at today, for example, our split is about 60 in terms of performance.
Okay.
And about 40 in terms of brand. And the reason for that is our industry is growing very rapidly. So we're spending a lot more money in terms of because millions of new customers are coming online. We get about 500,000 new customers buying for the first time on our app every month.
Every month?
Every month. Therefore, we are spending a lot more on performance. But longer term, you have to have a mix of both. Because if you don't build a brand and if you're just staying on performance, it's like incentives and coupons.
Yeah.
If I keep giving you a coupon every time, but it doesn't build a brand. You think, okay, this is a coupon brand.
Yeah.
So you also need to build a brand and therefore you need to spend time and money on building your brand. And that is where brand marketing comes in.
Interesting you say that because you're one of those first digital brands, so to speak, that had the biggest brand endorser possible. You had no less than Shah Rukh Khan, was talking about BigBasket, and then that was a time when still celebrity endorsement was the name of the game. But you've seen that change to now influencer marketing, and the rise of influencer marketing, and now the rise of hyper-local influencers. Not just the macro influencers, but hyper-local influencers. How do you straddle the spectrum?
I think both have their merits. And I don't think it's one versus the other. You probably need to use both. My experience with, when we did this entire Shah Rukh campaign and we did it over multiple years, you'd be surprised even today, and this is after, I think the last ad we must have done with Shah Rukh about 3 to 4 years back, people still say Shah Rukh Khan when I say BigBasket. So imagine building that kind of association. A marketer would play in blood for this. It is so hard to do it. So I think sometimes we tend to think that celebrities don't bring too much to a brand. It is actually the way you use a celebrity, what kind of campaign you create, the consistency we use them, the messaging that builds credibility with using the campaign and with the celebrity. If you do all of that, then I think a celebrity has a very powerful place. It's hard to do. It takes some thinking. For example, we chose Shah Rukh Khan after a lot of deliberation. Why did we choose Shah Rukh Khan? Because he said he's the one guy who actually appeals across generations. Right? He's women, men. Right? Most stars have a very, let me say, bipolar fan base. He's got a very universal fan base.
Versatile fan base.
A guy who's non-controversial, seen as something who's really very family friendly. So a lot of the attributes which lend themselves to somebody like us. So you also need to have a brand fit between the celebrity and the brand. And that's worked brilliantly for us.
So then let's talk about the other end of the spectrum. That's Shah Rukh Khan's clearly big success story for you as a brand. What about how you use hyper-local influencers? Yeah. Do you do hyper-local influencers?
Yes, we do. And we got a little late in the game, but for the last 2 years, we've been using influencers now. And some of the lessons that we have learned there, using influencers is very different from using celebrities. There are many celebrities known, right? But they have very well-defined segments, right? And there is a fan base that they cater to. So you need to blend into their fan base. It's the same challenge. You can't take a tech influencer and assume tech, because you're online, the tech and this thing sort of marries. It doesn't. He's talking about digital products. You're trying to sell something. You're a retail guy. You take a fashion influencer and try to make this work, doesn't work. So you need to pick people who are either generalists or who can actually are relevant to your category. Okay. That's number one. The second thing we realize, it's actually a very expensive category, because now it's cheaper to have Shah Rukh Khan than to have millions of influencers trying to get the same kind of view. So you have to be very selective, and you need to really think through because this is a portfolio of celebrities. Think of it that way. And you have to therefore choose the right portfolio to make it work.
You're telling me a whole bunch of influencers for a brand right now can cost more than one Shah Rukh Khan?
See, think of it this way. Each influencer reaches what? 10,000, 15,000, 1 million, 2 million. And the guys who reach 1 million are very expensive.
Yeah.
So it's the same challenge that you have. So you need to balance this portfolio out. Okay. Right? It has to be more expensive influencers plus moderate, reach moderate expense, plus lower expense, very specific targets. So think of it as portfolio construction. And the second thing you need to be cognizant of, I've realized, is that you need to refresh this portfolio. You cannot stay with the same influencers. Some of them maybe you can, but otherwise it becomes stale. Because each influencer has a way of projecting their message. They can do so many creative things. And after some time, they reach their cap. So you need to now figure out, how do I change my message? Because customers get bored of seeing the same thing. And especially when you're using influencers, remember this is transient communication, real communication. Shelf life is very, very low. So you have to keep doing it again and again and again. So it's a very regenerative exercise, iterative. You keep building the portfolio, keep churning through it, keep building it, keep doing it. The third thing we realize is that you have to work in close partnership with the influencer, and that takes bandwidth because you're doing it across so many of them. Because this is not about an agency. You're not giving a brief and say, please broadcast my product. It doesn't work like that. You have to understand what is the creative tendency of the influencer. You have to understand what message you want to give, and how do you create something which is interesting
and unique.
Yeah, because otherwise customers don't want to see it. They are bombarded with engaging content. So unless you can make interesting content, so the challenge in influencer marketing is, and the single biggest challenge in my opinion, is that how do you make that every content entertaining?
Is a very new term, so I'm going to take you back then in time, because once upon a time it was just advertisement or a TV ad. That's all that we grew up watching when it comes to branding and marketing. And I'm sure even as you're doing a digital brand and you're using influencers in this modern age of marketing, tell us, what is that one all-time favorite TV advertisement or brand campaign or marketing campaign that really stayed with you and it continues to inspire you in what you do today?
So the one which I remember very distinctly and which is not very old and continues even today, because I thought, it was very pithy, it was very funny, and it just focused on the product and did nothing else, which was fog, right? And it is a very, everybody remembers it, right? This is the Lalita Ji of the previous generation. And if you ask anybody, everybody knows the fog ad. Now think of how many campaigns resonate like that. And why does that campaign work? It is not a very sophisticated campaign. It's not trying to be put on any airs. It's not trying to create great situations. Yeah, it's just very simple, one single insight, and a message delivered very powerfully and very pithily. It is short, crisp, entertaining. It is the real ad of TV. And that's the way I think of it. So I keep thinking of it, therefore saying, how do we create the real ad of TV? Because TV consumption, ad consumption also changed. Customers have become used to real content. So how do you create your TV ad now, or your traditional media ad, which is more like that?
Less than 30 seconds.
Less than 30 seconds
or less.
Message is done. Guy is happy seeing it. He doesn't mind seeing it multiple times because it's funny. See, the only thing that customers don't mind seeing multiple times are the things which are funny. Anything which you are telling them, educating them, they don't want to see it again. Pathos, nobody wants to see it again. Right? So that's the only impression people.
So the fog ads really inspire you in what you do. Okay.
I think the insight to me was
they're actually out of the new campaign also
absolutely,
now.
Absolutely. And they keep doing that. They've discovered that this is my forte, and I want to just build on it.
It's the DNA of their branding brand campaign. Fascinating.
Absolutely.
What, according to you, is the big buzz as far as the world of branding and advertising and marketing is concerned?
Today, the big buzz is AI. If you look at content generation, it's become much easier thanks to AI. If you look at, by that I mean, things like banner ads, creating multiple versions of it, creating, product pages, descriptions, photos, editing them, creating, earlier, if you look at our app, now we change the banners multiple times a day. And then we do it across some 50 locations. So you are running through 3,500, 4,000 different banners in a month. Now imagine earlier getting it done through agencies and how much time consuming it was. We just couldn't change the frequency. Now I can change it daily because AI can generate it. So the efficiency that AI brings to content generation and campaign management is very, very high. Similarly, the other place where it's really transforming marketing to me is that its ability to personalize. Earlier, the issue was we always had data mining, we always had machine learning, but a lot of data, it took time to process, time to come back with insight, time to create segments, time to actually get it implemented. Now with AI, you can actually create a campaign of one and deliver it and execute it within minutes. Second, it has crunched the ability to take multiple millions of campaigns and do it at the same time. And so that's transforming marketing.
Give us an idea, a sense of the kind of AI tools that you use?
So it will be you'll use ChatGPT for text or Claude for text.
We all do, don't we?
You'll use Runway, you'll use Figma for design, you'll use Runway for video. So there are lots of tools available today, and the way it's going, you can actually have your voice modulation tools, you have video generation tools, you have avatar, you can create podcasts out of text, and you can have simple. Imagine earlier you had to actually creating a podcast took such a long time. Today, you can actually have a podcast out on any product that you want within maybe half an hour, an hour.
So it's always experiment and figure out what works best for you. Okay.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about something that according to you is overhyped in the world of advertising and branding and marketing. So much gyan is given about it, especially on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. It's so overhyped that in reality is actually quite blah. Right. What would that be?
So I think if you look at marketing, there are two things which are today which sort of dominate the conversations, particularly if you look at content platforms like LinkedIn. One is obviously a lot of D2C. And I'm not talking the brands.
D2C as in
direct to consumer marketing. And there the feeling is that today with all the tools you have, it's very easy to build a brand. Right? The overwhelming thing is you go to LinkedIn, you go to YouTube, you can absolutely easily build a brand. In fact, in my understanding, it's actually become far harder to build a brand now.
Why do you say that?
Today, because there is so much of fragmentation. In fact, one of the reasons you're seeing a rise of D2C brands is because anybody can go to Instagram, spend money and acquire customers, and you will find some customers who like your product. The challenge that happens is, how do you go from that small base of customers to build a larger base of customers to build even a larger base? And that is where you find that legacy brands continue to have a significant stranglehold. Because in this new brand fight, it's very difficult for brands to continue investing and continue climbing the marketing ladder. So I think the primary thinking that goes on in all these content platforms is it's very easy to build a brand. In fact, it's exactly the opposite now. It's actually becoming harder and harder to build a brand. And if you recognize that early, you'll actually be very conservative. And focus more on building the product than on building the brand.
Product or service, as the case may be.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
your sense is what is actually overhyped is like they think it's all about marketing and it's all about going to social media platforms and
That's it.
and cobbling something together.
Yeah,
and you're
it's so
done.
easy. Let's just go list on Amazon, let's go on Myntra, let's go in and you'll start selling.
What is the one thing about your job today that you love the most? The one thing that you look forward to every single day. When you wake up and you have to go to work.
Right.
The one thing that really drives you.
Well, I really love my job. And I've been doing this for such a long time that people keep asking me, why don't you retire? 60 plus, good time for you to, what keeps you going? I mean, this is not money now. This is not fame. This is not, whatever it is. What drives you? And my single answer to them is, I love my job. Even if nobody paid me money, I would still do it. Right? And the reason I love it is because you're working in an industry which is growing very rapidly, which is transforming retail in India, and you're seeing this happen in front of you. So you're watching this very exciting action thriller, right? And you're in the middle of it, and you're the leading man, or you're part of the cast. And obviously you're sort of engrossed and you're just, your heart is pounding and you're running. So there's so much of energy in a business when we have a market which is growing so rapidly. And the reason that energy comes is because every day you're trying to figure out, how do I beat my competition? How do I get more customers? How can I improve my product? What things can I do better? And every day something is screwing up. And you're saying, okay, how do I fix this? How do I fix this? So there is always a challenge. Every day is a challenge. And I don't think, there wouldn't be a single week without a crisis. And a single week without a great news. Something has worked brilliantly. And that is, you keep getting those highs and those challenges. And when things are challenging, it brings all your energy to it. When things work well, it gives a lot of joy. So you're both joy and challenge. And you can't ask for a better job.
Wow. Some people will take the same answer that you gave and say, that is the reason why I don't like my job. And you're using that to say, that's the reason why I love my job. Fascinating. Okay, well, let me ask you the other question. What is the one thing about your job that you don't like? I mean, we don't say hate on the show. Hate is too big a word.
Right.
The one thing about your job that you detest the most, that you don't look forward to?
Actually, it's also one of the things I've always believed is a lot of us, what we don't detest is because we have not set our expectations right, honestly. And if you don't set your expectations right, I'm the co-founder. So there are things that I'll have to do. I have to review. I have to spend time coaching people. I have to figure out what's happening on the finance front. I may have to raise money. I have to maybe to 100 people, of which 99 may say no to me. And so these are part of the job. Now, obviously, these are things which are very difficult and don't give you joy. There's no joy or challenge in this. Right? The only joy here is that you are actually building a foundation for future growth or for the better of the company. And these things obviously take a lot of your time. So if I were to think of it 20, 25% or 30% of my job is really doing a lot of humdrum, regular stuff, which if somebody told me, okay, I'll put one AI robot to do this, I'm very happy. Please take it. I will start doing that. I think that's it. But the one thing that I've taught myself, and I keep telling people, every job has that component, right? If you're a salesperson, you have travel. Travel is humdrum, boring, detest. I'd hate travel. I don't want to get on a plane, but I need to get on a plane. Right? And I'm traveling a lot of time. So this kind of stuff is part and parcel of the role. You have to tell yourself, sorry, grin and bear it.
Vipul, I just asked you what you don't like. This is the most philosophical answer that I've gotten for it. No, it is not to look forward to, but you have to get your expectation right, then you're fine. Obviously, if you get your expectations right for life, then you have no problem whatsoever.
Exactly. That's the point. Because I honestly can't think of something which I detest so much that I don't want to do it at all. Which I don't think is necessary. I wish I knew. I mean, I don't have it. And I've realized the reason is
some serious life gyan we're getting on the show. And this is not about branding or marketing.
Probably with the fact to do with that I'm a boomer. So.
No, or the fact that you were a co-founder of one of the biggest D2C, before the term D2C was a direct-to-consumer was a big deal, online brands ever. You were a first mover and had to deal with a lot of challenges. From there to now seeing a smooth road ahead, it's been quite a roller coaster ride, huh?
No, it's also our third startup, incidentally. The two first of them you not even heard of them because they've gone anywhere. So you learn the hard way that as a founder you have to take the beatings and the plaudits.
Okay.
And both are part and parcel of the game.
One last thing. Tell us from purely branding and marketing perspective, what do you see as the road ahead? Because things are changing so quickly. Consumer behavior is changing quickly. Technology is changing so quickly. But what do you think, are the big trends as far as the immediate future is concerned for branding and marketing?
I think there are three things that marketers have to watch out for, right? You'll have to get very, very efficient. And most people think, I can use new tools, I can use this. There are multiple ways to achieve that. But I think to me, marketing efficiency will become very, very important. And the reason this will become very important is because marketing costs are rising. They're not coming down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're not coming down at all. People keep saying, you have newer tools, but the market is also getting fragmented. Do you spend on Google? Do you spend on Meta? Do you spend on other news platforms? Do you also spend on newspaper? Do you also spend on TV?
Do you also spend on celebrity endorsements?
Yeah, and look at the number of options that you have.
Yep.
So you need to get very, very clear that what works for you, getting that right, and finding a single thing and just staying with it, and getting your formula right and keep revisiting it. It's very, very important. And getting there for efficiency. What gives you the maximum bang for the buck? You need to discover that very quickly for your business, and then stay true to it and keep checking it. That is the single biggest thing. The second thing is, one of the biggest changes which is coming for marketing is AI. And while it's a buzzword and like it or not, marketing being transformed by it, but how do you bring legacy marketeers up to speed on a tool which is changing by the minute, and which is some 25 different products coming out every other day, and which is so deeply enmeshed in marketing that you need to learn very, very quickly. So second biggest challenge is, how are you going to create a learning organization while tackling your competition in a high growth business, getting everybody familiar with and starting to use AI? So that's a huge, huge challenge for marketing. Third is, all this you'll have to do with building a brand, because building a brand now has become even more critical than before. Because if you don't build a durable brand, it's very easy to get disrupted now. Because somebody will just come with and spend enough performance marketing money and you'll be out on the streets. So the only thing that protects you is your brand. So how do you do all of this, build a brand at the same time, and continue to invest?
Fascinating. We'll leave it at that. Vipul, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on the Brand Wallas. Thank you.